I'm just going to come out here on the camera and say it. I'm literally realizing I'm thinking more about the individual than the collective. And that's a real problem in today's day and age where we're being squeezed of the very few finances we do have. And so as a result, when you don't have as much money, you would think that, okay, the first thing you could think is, how am I going to make more money? Okay, yeah, you can try and get a better job in today's economy. Everywhere around the world, it's much more difficult to get work. I mean, all the Western developed countries, even what some countries where it's considered third world, it's getting a lot more difficult to find a job. But that's one of the first modes of thinking is, okay, I can't afford something. I'm going to try and look for a job. Try and find a way to make more money. Okay, great. You found a way to make more money. Okay, but things are still expensive. So, okay, then the second thing you might think is, where can I not be spending as much money? How can I save the few dollars I am making, or pounds, or wherever you live? How can I save the few dollars I am making to so that I can afford living a basic life? Okay, so you thought of making more money. Okay, that's difficult, but you tried it. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't for you. And then the second way is, okay, you tried to cut your expenses and save a couple more. Like, just you try to save a little bit more, a couple dollars, a couple pounds here and there. Okay, but things are still expensive. That doesn't mean you're going to be able to afford a house or a car. Okay, my proposed ideas are in regards to the big expenses, the things that we need more or less to survive. So in the West, a car. So in Canada and in the States, the majority of the country, you need both of those two countries. You need a car to get around places. Okay, they're expensive though. We know this. So, but you need one. Okay, the second thing you need to survive. So you don't need to go to the restaurant, and that's where you're cutting expenses or whatever you can, cutting Netflix or whatnot. But that's not going to allow you to buy a car or a house. How are you supposed to do these things? Now, so the idea that I'm proposing is that we need to focus more, instead on being an individual, develop the habits of being of a collective mindset within your group, within your communities. And that's why earlier I was thinking a lot about communities and how important they are. But you need to start thinking more with a collectivist mindset, and this is very popular in much of the rest of the world. In Western countries, we focus so much on the individual that it's really starting to break the backs of working class individuals, the middle class. So by pooling your resources, by developing more of a collectivist mindset, one thing that I think will help with that is we'll start thinking about ways we not only can improve our own individual lives, but the lives of everyone around us. So how can I, instead of going out to the grocery store and picking up things just for myself, why don't I just send a quick text to I hate doing this. This is advice for myself. What can I could just send a quick text to my mom or my dad. Is there anything you need at this store, or I'm going to be in this area. Is there anything you need me to pick up? Because I'm going to be around here. These little things help just for starters, set the mindset for thinking about others in your circle. I'm not saying you have to text your mates and ask them, okay, I'm at Walmart. Is there anything you need to pick up for you? Some chips. I know I'm not going to see you for another month, but you need chips, mate. You don't have to think like that, but in your immediate circle, for your siblings, for your parents, you need to develop that community and those connections and strengthen those bonds and think about ways you can support each other in the little ways. And then, by developing that mindset, when the economy is going to crap, so things are going to get harder for the bigger expenses like cars and housing. So once you've done that for your immediate family of developing a collectivist mindset, how we can support one another, you then need to branch out on how you can spread that thinking, how you're going to support not just your immediate family, but your extended family and your very, very close friends. There's these systems that my mom had told me about that my grandmother does, where people in her community, amongst the seniors, what they do is they collect money and they use it to help pay for different things in different people's lives if there's an emergency. But what they do is they pool their money together so that they can pay for things in each individual person's life if something comes up that not one individual alone could handle. So let's say it's a medical emergency. Alone with your job, with your 50K a year job, you probably couldn't pay for that because the community, whatever that is, whatever group of people in that community can do is pool their resources together, because the odds are this is like how insurance works. Everyone puts money in so that when one person of the thousand has an emergency, there's insurance to cover it. And so that's what we need to do in our own small communities, because insurance companies are still a business. They don't really care about us. And that's why there was so much talk about that CEO from that CEO of that healthcare company in the States that lost so much. I mean, not lost so much. He didn't lose anything, but people just didn't care because insurance companies are so predatory. But if you develop those kinds of systems within your own family and your communities, that kind of thinking, that kind of systems can be in place to support you when the government and society as a whole isn't there to support you. If you lose your job and well, I won't go to that example yet, but if you have a medical emergency and insurance isn't there to cover it, and you as your community have pooled these resources for helping each other in times of desperation and need, then maybe it can go towards that. Or I don't know, you need to figure out a system in place for what these pools of money can be used for. In that way, we're protecting ourselves when we know the government and the policies in place aren't actually protecting us. And so that's the thinking I'm having right now, is what things can I do? First, to develop the mindset of collectively taking care of my family, but what things can I do to help my family first, because I don't know where the economy is going, to get me out of debt. Okay, so that's me on an individual, because I have the least debt in my family. We need to think strategically. Well, who's the person we can get out of debt the fastest? And once that person's out of debt, then they can start pulling their resources to get the next person. And this is like a snowball effect in investing. When people are trying to save or pay off debts, one of the ideas, one of the ways of getting out of debt is working on the small ones first, because they're the most achievable ones mentally to take care of. So the car loan, any other small debts, credit cards. Just take care of the small loans like the car loan, the credit card debt, and then once you get that, then you can think about the bigger expenses like your education and then your house. But you develop the mindset, the mental toughness to be able to take on the challenge of paying off debt. And I think we need to apply this to how we take care of our families. I don't know who else does this, but this is what I'm thinking. If I get myself out of debt, because I'm not going to ask my parents to do it for me, I just know I'm the one in my family with the least amount of debt. So once I get myself out of debt, I feel like it's a good idea for me to be the person to start this frame and say, I'm out of debt. I'm willing to give some of my money to help the next person with the least amount of debt also get out of it. So that then once we are both out of debt, because it's now two people tackling one debt, then it can now be us two going to a third person and three people tackling a debt, rather than for years and years and years, each of us individually trying to pay off our debts. Now, this can also snowball effect if you have one generous person who isn't in debt, but I'm talking about the people who are struggling, the families that are struggling a little bit. This works great for somebody who's willing to bless you with the funds to pay yourself out of debt. But I wouldn't just stop there and think, okay, I'm out of debt now, so I can go and spend more money. No, think about the people who are close to you that by helping them would allow for them to get out of debt and get in a better place much faster, because they're taking your money. They're taking your money through insurance. They're taking your money through higher taxes and everything, especially in middle class families, low to mid income families. Everything's getting taken with taxes. So and interest, taxes and interest. So if you want one of the best things I think people can start doing right now, we all know in a recession, one of the first things you need to do is get out of debt, because it's a risk. So in order to reduce the risk in low to mid income families and the middle class, the number one thing I think people should be doing right now is tackling the smallest debts in your family, in your community, and then going after the next one, but as a collective. collectively tackling these debts, these things that collect so much interest from us, so much taxes from us. Take care of those things, work on them as a collective, and then go for the next one, and then go for the next one, and do that as a community until everyone's out. So I'm going to see how this works for me, but that's my idea. And yeah, thank you for watching. Let's see how this goes.